What if I told you that there is one way to tell if Bitcoin is about to begin up-only mega bull mode, and that I was going to show you exactly how in this video? And as predicted in yesterday's video, Bitcoin did in fact get a baby dump. But is this baby dump over? Or is it about to get dumpier than your bathroom after a late night trip to Taco Bell? But even bigger than all of this is that what if I told you that this is exactly when the altcoin bull market will begin, using only one absolutely gigantic secret mega indicator that has been able to predict every single altcoin bull market since the beginning of baby bull kind. Wow, as we discussed in yesterday's video, Bitcoin was overdue for a dumpulation, and about 8 hours afterwards of posting this video, Bitcoin did in fact receive a dumpy. But the big question now is the dump over? But more importantly, I actually want to spend a lot of time in this video talking about two giant things. Exactly what has to happen for Bitcoin to actually begin the bull market. And we're not talking about time or the halving or anything like that. We're talking about one mega indicator about specifically what price Bitcoin has to get to before initiating mega bust mode. And it's not all-time highs, obviously. It's way before that. And also, more importantly, when alt season begins. And that's what we're going to be majorly talking about also in this video. So if you love gains and you absolutely love pumping in and pumping on, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. And without any further ado, let's dump on the baby bears and pump also on the baby bears. So clearly Bitcoin has gotten dumped on. Now, one chart I really want to jump into first is this chart right here. And if we go all the way back to 2013, this indicator, the Fibonacci, this specific level here, was able to accurately predict when up-only mode would begin for Bitcoin. And actually, funny enough, if we look at where we're at right now on Bitcoin's chart, it is exactly the same. And it is exactly the same of what happened in the previous bull market as well. So if we look at this chart, the 0.5 on this Fibonacci retracement in the 2013, 2014 cycle, initially it got rejected at 0.5, which is around $700 at the time. It got a nice wick above that level, but ultimately did not get any significant weekly closes or bi-monthly closes here. It did not get any significant about 2-week closes. We're looking at a 15-day chart, so half of a month. We didn't get any significant closes above the 0.5. We got a rejection, ultimately held at the 0.382 though. And then the next time when we actually did break 0.5, it was almost absolutely completely up only, and it was the beginning of that bull market. You can see that here. And it led to a $20,000 Bitcoin. So pretty significant. Now also you might think, well, did that happen afterwards? Here, after this bear market began in the beginning of 2018, we actually did see the same thing. The price ran all the way up to the 0.5, was unable to get really any significant long-term, 15 or 30-day closes. Here, we actually had a wick all the way up to the 0.618, a little bit even above that, but ultimately you can see where that weakness was. Ideally, you want to look for at least like 2 closes in this range. We didn't get that. We got rejected. And that rejection then led us all the way to the 0.236, where we did end up bouncing. However, again, this is the black swan anomaly that then brought us, in my opinion, I think what would have happened, this is all speculation that's pretty meaningless anyway, but if we wouldn't have had the black swan, I personally think we would have kind of just drifted up in some sideways. But we ended up getting the mega dump with the stock market and everything as well. That's this area here, kind of an anomaly. And then ultimately, yeah, I mean, if you ignore this piece here, the bull market did exactly then what you would have expected it to anyway. So pretty insignificant if you actually zoom out. At the time, this was like the end of the world. I remember this. People were panicking, everyone losing their minds. But then you just fast forward a couple of weeks and it doesn't even matter, right? So here we are. Most recently, you guessed it. Where have we faced this first little rejection most recently here? Well, it's at the 0.5, exactly like the past two bear to bull markets that I just showed you, the Fibonacci sequence here, the 0.5, literally exactly actually where we sit right now. So the key here in my opinion, is to hold the very worst case down at this level, the 0.236, which is about 28,000. And I think that in a wick, that might be possible in a very worst case scenario where this ends up still being a massive bull market. Now, that is so far away. It's not something that it should really be focused on. Realistically, the 0.382 is a much bigger level of support that I think more than likely is more likely to be hit than the 0.236, but I'm not even convinced we'll go all the way down to 35. As I talked about in the video yesterday, I had those pullback targets. If we actually get an actual, sustained like week or 2 week pullback around the 37 to 38, wicking down to the 0.382 at about 35,000 also is equally as healthy, equally as good. So that's something very big to keep in mind on the Bitcoin charts. Basically, all of that to say is we're in a very healthy spot right now. And it's important to note that a pullback at the 0.5 is exactly what has happened in every previous Bitcoin bull market as we enter it. So if anything, that more validates where we are, in my opinion. I think this is very good. We have just run up, if we take it from the bottom, we've run up about 180% over the last year in Bitcoin. If we get a pullback here for a couple weeks, that's not bad. And now something even bigger I want to talk about is this. If we apply that same exact indicator to the total 3 chart, the entire cryptocurrency market minus Bitcoin and minus Ethereum, we see something even more clear about these bull markets. In the past, the 0.236, as we talked about also, is a gigantic level of resistance for altcoins in their cycles. Now, keep in mind, altcoins tend to get dumped on more than Bitcoin, whereas Bitcoin's big resistance level is about 0.5-ish. Altcoins as a whole, their big resistance is much lower, around 0.236, because altcoins simply, if we put it simply, altcoins get dumped on more in bear markets. They also tend to pump more in bull markets, percent-wise. Also because they're so tiny in terms of market cap compared to Bitcoin. But here we have the 0.236, which initial rejection we got back basically in the middle of the bear market, in the last bear market. But afterwards, the next time that we approached this, we spent some time there, but ultimately this was, in my opinion, obviously this is the best time to long. Look, in retrospect, obviously this is the best entry. But if we're actually going to be realistic and try to apply this to be safe and have a very good risk to reward ratio, I think longing at this spot was very, very good, right at that initial first rejection at the 0.236. And where that 0.236 lies today, well, actually, this most recent rally has taken us right to that level. It's about $480 billion in market cap for the entire altcoin space, minus Bitcoin, minus Ethereum. So this is our first touch here. If we get a rejection here, that's one thing. But more so, if we're able to trade around this range, and then if we start moving above this 0.236, that, I believe, is when the true alt gains really begin. What I'm saying is, let's say we spend a couple weeks doing something like this. Let's say, heck, even we get a dump, and then over the next month or two, we then move back up. Whatever happens around this level. Concretely, once altcoins are able to break above the 0.236, I personally am going to be getting very long on any altcoins that I want. Anything that I'm looking at the time, that's when I'm going to be going balls to the wall, pedal to the metal, whatever word you want to say. That's when I get hyper bullish on altcoins. And we're not quite there just yet, but it doesn't take, we're not that far off. We're only about a 10% move in the entire altcoin space. So that's pretty close. We've actually made up a lot of ground in the past year. So that's pretty good for altcoins. This is exciting. This is honestly one of those times you actually want to be looking. And is it bad to accumulate altcoins at these levels? I don't necessarily think so, right? I'm just saying I think that the risk to reward gets really good once altcoins start climbing above the 0.236. That to me is a very good indication. And also it absolutely lines up pretty much with some pretty good resistance, the 0.236, because we did suffer rejection slightly below that back at the beginning of 2022 as we tried to, altcoins try to get some life. So that's what I'm looking at on the altcoin charts. That's pretty big. And I think a lot of people actually are excited about seeing that. Now, as I said, I talked about this in yesterday's video when Bitcoin was above 44,000. We fast forward, we did get a pretty substantial dump. We do see a pretty nice wick here though, which is pretty nice. But if we actually look at Bitcoin's chart, this is now a test of the 21-day moving average right here. So that's big, and it's good we're finding support there. If we look at the daily chart, however, clearly there is the MACD kind of coiling up to actually have a downside move in the short term. So I don't necessarily expect this dump is over yet. This could last well over a week, I think. If we try to project it out, will make sense. But also, we also have to realize that we're going to be getting this golden cross kind of in the middle of this, because even though Bitcoin is suffering a dump, as long as Bitcoin is like anywhere above 30,000 US dollars, this moving average is still going to be trending upwards, just a little bit slower if we go lower, but it is still trending upwards. So we are going to be getting a golden cross here, which I think is an important thing that we have to remember, because how would I phrase this? Mid to long term, I'm very bullish. But if we're talking the next week or so, then that's why I said I was bearish yesterday. We got a dump, and that's why I still think this is a somewhat more of a bearish trend in the very, very short term. Is that bad or good? Guys, I think most of you understand that's still very good. It's very healthy. But there are some people, I was literally getting comments yesterday when I posted this about we're going to get a dump. People were saying there's no way we're going to get a dump. We'll never go below 40,000 again is what they were saying. I personally think it's very likely we could go below 40,000 even within the next few weeks. That is not even unhealthy. That's crazy to think Bitcoin can't. I mean, what would we even have to go down? That's like a 4% drop. So there are literally people out there that are so bullish they think we can't get a 4% drop. That's crazy to me. Okay, there's a time to be bullish, there's a time to be bearish, but there's a time to be rational. That's not bad if we drop 4%. You're crazy if you think it's up only just yet. We're not up only just yet. There will be a point, and that's exactly why I talked about these charts here, of when up only begins. And sign up with Phoenix or BitGet below in my description if you're interested in obtaining altcoins, trading, anything like that. Really good diversity and a lot of good things you can do on the exchanges. Takes 30 seconds to sign up. Without any further ado, that's it for me.